Hello, my friend. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Pete, and we're talking about the importance of long term goal setting and expectation setting with your clients. Pete talks about it from a sports performance perspective. I talk a little bit about it from a Gen Pop perspective, but it's really super helpful conversation for those of you who are wanting to keep your clients around long term. So if that matters to you, and I think it does, keep on listening. It's a great episode. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. And today I'm here with Pete. What's up, Pete?
Hey, Michael. What's happening?
So good to have you, sir. As always, I would look forward to these conversations every time we get to have them. But before we dive into our actual conversation today, I have to do a quick shout out, as always. And my quick shout out today is actually to encourage our listeners to follow us on all the social medias. Pete is prolific on the social medias. Where can they find you?
Oh, I'm newly on Threads. Does that matter? I admittedly don't know what I'm doing with it or how I intend to use it.
No one does.
It, we'll say, but I got a handful of posts up there. I'm showing up a little bit, and I don't like their notifications format. I feel a little lost there, but I'm there, and it's the same as my Instagram handle. And actually, everything is Pete_Dupuis. And my name is difficult to spell if you're not into French Canadian last name.
I know we have a lot of French Canadian listeners, so there's a handful of people that are going to have no problem with it. But yeah, go follow Pete. He's constantly putting out tons of wisdom, tons of really actionable advice. And then follow us at Business for Unicorns, mainly on Instagram is where we're at these days. But you can also find us on YouTube where we post this podcast. And Mark also has another YouTube channel where he gives amazing, actionable, short, tight videos for gym owners. And so go find us on social medias, subscribe to those places, and follow us, because this podcast is not our only piece of regular content. We're putting on stuff all the time that we hope is just as valuable. So thanks for letting me do a quick pitch. Now let's dive into today's topic. And today's topic specifically, at least our starting point for this conversation was sports performance gyms out there, much like Cressy. And the topic was about how you have athletes, both at the youth athlete level, all the way up to semi-pro and pro level, who find success in their career, and because of that success are get all these opportunities to play more and play more, which means there's often less and less time for their training. And we want to talk about like that because you've seen it time and time again. I know a lot of our listeners who run sports performance gyms are noticing that as people get better and better and more recognized in their field, more celebrated, they have maybe less time to be in the gym. So we're going to talk about that phenomenon and talk about maybe how to get in front of it to keep people coming to the gym even when they're at the top of their game. So yeah, kind of tee this up from your own experience, Pete.
Yeah, this came to me recently because our guys, Nathan and Breland down in the Carolinas, were on the cusp of seeing one of their longtime clients get drafted pretty high in the MLB draft. And they wanted to build some initiatives around their current and past, present, and future work with him because he's complicit in that. He sees himself as part of their program. And I said to him, you better make some moves right now, because once that guy gets a call from whatever organization he ultimately gets picked by, you're going to lose him. Like he's going to be assigned to go out to Arizona, and then he's not going to know where he wants to spend his off season. And then he's going to have his old high school coach ask if he can come and speak at a banquet. And then his college coach is going to tell him, come on out to this fundraiser. And the higher you climb, the more things get thrown at you. And I realized I've seen this everywhere from like the 12-year-olds on up to the big leaguers. And it's just the training complements the on-field performance. The solid on-field performance turns into more opportunities to play or be showcased or eat up your calendar. And the unfortunate reality is that people tend to deprioritize the training piece at that point. And that's where the hit comes. And I'll give you a perfect example. At the highest of high levels, this past fall, we watched a guy, Jeremy Pena, our client, shortstop for the Houston Astros. He had all the time in the world earlier in his career to train because he was a climbing, lower profile minor leaguer who ultimately deservingly got himself to the big leagues. And in that first year, what did he do? Well, he was in the running for a Rookie of the Year vote. He won an American League Championship Series and World Series MVP, and he won a Gold Glove. And suddenly a guy whose typical off season in the past was 5 full months was like a program and a half. The guy
Mm-hmm.
is like, you know, cutting the ribbon at fast food places in Houston, and he's
Yep.
accepting his Gold Glove in Manhattan, and he's living that life that comes with being a guy of that profile. And you can't say no to those things. Those are great things. You want to do those things. You never know when you're going to have an opportunity to be at the absolute apex like that again. So if you're Jeremy, you got to do that. But it also means that your off season got seriously abbreviated,
Yeah.
and there's just only so many hours in the day for those people. So that's the highest of high profile scenarios I've seen it. But it happens with a lot of our pro guys, and it happens with our college guys who get drafted, and it even happens with the 12-year-old who figured
Mm-hmm.
out how to throw a ton of strikes. And next thing you know, there's a club program who says, I want to fly you to these tournaments with us. Don't even worry about the cost. We're going to take care of it. We just want to get you some innings. It's going to be great. And these are things that people have a hard time saying no to.
Yep.
But that leads to, when we talked about this, what was your first question to me, Michael?
Well, what do you do about it?
Exactly.
How do you keep them around?
I
Yeah.
didn't. I told you the unfortunate reality for me is that karma tends to resolve that problem. I don't
Yeah.
have a solution in place. In hindsight, I know what my answer is. My answer is have conversations about this before it happens.
Yeah.
But in the moment, the people who tend to prioritize more baseball at the
Yep.
expense of less training, they tend to have injury issues. They tend to
Yep.
break down a little faster. They tend to burn out mentally and physically. And when they do come back to the weight room and they realize, like, whoa, this was actually one of the foundational things that got me here, they're at a lower starting point than they should be. They lost
Mm-hmm.
some of that momentum. And so it's easy for me to see in hindsight, like, oh, you should have known.
Yeah.
Look at the dots. It's easy to connect them in reverse.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if I see those opportunities coming, it's probably better that I say to them, you're on a trajectory. I can see your success coming. It's awesome. It's deserved. As it comes, I would encourage you to constantly be self checking, asking
Mm-hmm.
yourself, what got me here? And what is it that I can't compromise on if I want to stay here?
Yeah.
But this is all retroactive thought at this point.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that makes sense. But that's, that's, I think, part of the value of a podcast like this, right? Is like we're telling you listeners in real time things that Pete is experiencing, things that we're learning, things that we haven't figured out solutions to. And this is a perfect example of like, you've seen this trend, but you're just now thinking about, like, okay, well, how do I get in front of this? How do I set expectations for clients from the beginning, or set expectations at the point where I see them rising in their skill level and in their, notoriety? How do I then be this sounding board to help them navigate their career from a training perspective and prioritize the things that are going to keep them healthy long term? That's part of our jobs, right? Whether you're working with sports performance or general population, right? It's like, and we'll give a general population analogy here because I think there is at least one, but I think that's, it's a thing that you're figuring out in real time.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? To the performance training gyms out there, if you're a established one, this will ring true to you. And if you're an up and coming one, you're about to learn it. But we are intentionally or not mentors for these young
Yeah.
kids, even on up into professional athletes in their early 20s.
Yep.
They when I started this, I was a 25-year-old, and I always said, Eric and I were 25, so we were young enough to be able to talk the talk with the high school and college athletes and not be seen as an old person trying too hard. But we were also just old enough to be taken seriously as someone who's seen something, who's in the
Yep.
real world, who knows what they're doing. So we were given this opportunity to kind of help turn these kids into men, help them like see the world through our eyes based on our experience. And the parents looked at us as role models because their kids were spending so much time in our presence. And it was this really cool opportunity to do a little bit of life coaching, I guess you could say. But
Yeah.
it wasn't what we initially signed up for. It's just the
Mm-hmm.
reality of where we ended. And I had a
Yeah.
conversation recently with an old friend, actually a guy who was training with us doing some football combine prep the year we started. And now he is helping some peers start a gym. And they're going from zero to something, 0 to 1. And I said, do you have a business plan? They said, yes. And here's the dream. And the vision had strength coaching, it had nutritional consultations, it had college recruiting coaching, it had sports psychologists. It was a vision of like this big, beautiful thing. And I said, look, You can and should be all of those things to your athletes, but you don't need to declare them all as services initially.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, when we started, we were just trying to deliver this comprehensive service, experience, knowledge to our community. And that meant it was casually discussing nutrition and supplements on the training floor. But that didn't mean we were saying we were a nutrition services boutique. We were just talking to the kids like, hey, did you have a banana and some chocolate milk after you trained yesterday? You need to put food in your body after you train, that sort of a deal. Or, hey, how's school going? When standardized testing? When do you have SATs? Are you stressed about college applications? Oh, I remember that. This was my experience. We're doing all of those things, but we're not hell bent on monetizing them before we start. And so my
Yeah.
feedback to them was, yeah, kind of, I would say on an amateur level, aspire to be all those things, but don't charge people for it when you're just getting going. Earn that right. Deliver an experience that they can't help but rave about. And then if you need to take them a step further and you want to monetize them in a comprehensive way, then give them something that's based on experience, not based on a business plan while you are mind mapping this like hypothetical 10,000 square foot facility that should really be 1,500 square feet on day one, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Sorry for the
Yeah.
rant.
No, it's a great rant. I think it's useful advice no matter where anyone is in their business, right? Is that like, is that you really want to, in some ways, and, kind of earn the right to turn something into a service, right? Be so good at it that you now have to charge for it, right? But I think, I think it's a great lesson. And here's the thing is I even have a little bit of that experience on my own because, the reason I went to coaching school and got a coaching certification, like a life coaching certification, not training certification, over a decade ago is because we had the similar kind of experience with people at MFF. Who we trained the general population at MFF, but they were doing our Snatch in 6 Weeks program. And throughout that program, they were having huge breakthroughs and huge breakdowns. And they were really going through a real emotional roller coaster. And I realized that they were turning to us for advice. They were turning to us to be their mentors and their guides and their Sherpas and their coaches. And I was like, it was me sitting at the front desk of MFF by myself being like, I don't know how to help you. Right? I don't have the tools yet. And so, I did the best I could, but I went and got the tools. That's why I originally became a coach. And then since then, we certainly have done all kinds of programs where we charge people for life coaching services, but it's not something we did right out the gate. It's not something we planned to do on day one. It became a skill set that we knew our clients wanted from us, that we as a team needed to develop. And once we did, we can charge separately for it. But let me just continue pulling this thread because I want to make sure that anyone listening who's not sports performance gym kind of recognizes that the trend that you've laid out here has a real analogy to general pop as well. For example, I'll speak to some examples I know of at MFF that even if they're not athletes, general folks who come into MFF want to move better, want to feel better in a bathing suit, want to have a more healthy, active lifestyle. And as you help them achieve those goals, that means they're going out to the beach more often because they feel better in their bathing suit. That means they're playing with their kids and their grandkids more often and going to games and going camping and taking hikes more often. It means they're going to sign up for that 5K. It means they're going to go try a Tough Mudder. It means they're going to maybe also want to do spinning down the street. So as you help them get healthier and more active and more able, they're going to have more opportunity in their life to do more. In many cases, not every case. And that's very similar to what you're describing with your athletes. As they become more and more capable, they have more and more opportunity. And in general population cases, maybe not celebrity that's pulling them away, but it's a sense of possibility, right? They can do more in their life. And part of our job as the mentors and coaches that we are is helping them realize that to maintain that new lifestyle they want, spending time in the gym is going to be essential. Continuing to focus on their strength and their movement quality and that relationship they've built to their body means they're going to have to keep coming into the gym. And that's a conversation I think even a general population coaches and gym owners should be having with their clients. Yeah. Would you add anything to that?
Oh, I just love you're so much more articulate than I am, where I called it opportunity and you called it possibility, and it's so much better to sell possibility. Like, just create possibility for yourself. And I also liked where you said that we need to earn the opportunity to monetize these things. And it brought me back to this moment when we started our business. We budgeted to give away a t-shirt with our logo and website on it to every single person who paid for an evaluation.
Wow.
and we bought, I believe, 150 or 200 units of them. They were in Eric's trunk in a big old box the day we started. He's like, I bought these. I don't know how many use them. And we were like, well, let's start giving these babies out. And we ran through all of those. We brought 200 kids through the door. We gave out all the T-shirts, and we ordered a new batch. And there was a moment where someone came in. They were like, I need to buy a shirt. And I was like, what? And they're like, I've been seeing him everywhere. On the day of his evaluation, he's like, I want to buy a shirt. And we gave him a shirt as part of it that day. But then we were like, hey, people are coming in asking what they cost now. We have earned the right to put a price tag on these. And we just stopped giving them away, and we
Yeah.
started selling them for $20 a pop. But we earned
Yep.
that right. We
Yeah.
created the brand awareness to start monetizing them.
Yeah, 100%. I see that. I see that being used with businesses all the time. It's why almost every business offers a free trial. It's why walking on the streets of New York City, there's people up on the corner handing out these drinks I've never heard of out of a van. It's like, they're giving you a free can of something I've never heard of to drink. So it kind of builds a reputation and demand for this thing they want everyone to buy. And some I never hear from again. And sometimes that can is now in every bodega corner in New York City. And so I
Oh,
think,
you
yeah,
want
I
to hear a
think,
story about this killer? I've got the best
please.
story for you. One of my pro
Yeah.
guys, 12, 13, 14 years ago, they used to go out every single Thursday night. All these minor leaguers would get together and they'd go out and they'd party. They'd go to the bars on Friday morning. They'd
Yeah.
all warm up and hung over and talk about the night before. And they had a community that they built, and that was the lifestyle they lived. And one of the guys came in on a Friday morning, and he's messing around with his phone, and he's like, my phone is a disaster. And we're like, why? What's wrong with your phone? He's like, I let some maniac download his app on my phone last night in
Oh,
exchange
no.
for a slice of pizza. And it turns out this guy approached him at a game at Boston University. They went to the hockey game, and they were going to go out afterwards. And he said, hey, man, if I buy you a slice of pizza, will you let me put my new dating app on your phone? And this guy had the founder of Tinder download Tinder to his phone while it was in a
What?
beta stage, and it was all glitchy, and it blew up his phone, and he was so angry, and it was just for a slice of pepperoni pizza.
Wow. That is the ultimate hustle story. Can you
Yep.
picture just like the founder of Tinder, just like hustling with pizza slices to get downloads?
Yep, just finding dudes. You're gonna like it. You'll love it. Let me put it on here. I'll buy you a slice. And you know what? That guy is married now, but he definitely used Tinder up until that point.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I have another version of this story, much less famous version, but I was in line at a deli in Fire Island a few weeks ago, and I was in line just trying to get a sandwich, and the person in front of me started up a conversation. By the time I left that conversation, I was following him on Instagram and had a sticker of this animated character that he created, and also then followed him later because there's a QR code on it for YouTube. It's like in a conversation in line, he developed a follower on two platforms and gave me something to remember him by. I was like, this man is hustling. I will follow him just because he's really earned the right
Yeah, just
to
to
sell
roll
me
yourself.
something now.
That guy could be bigger than Tinder. Who knows? It's
Yeah,
too
who
early. He's in
knows?
the early
Yeah.
stages.
100%. But I was like, good for you. Good for you. Well, let's do this. Let's wrap it up. I feel like we've covered more than one topic here, but what are you hoping people take away from this conversation?
I hope that the performance training facility owners use this as an opportunity to spot the possibilities before their clients have
Mm,
jumped all over them at the expense of their good habits.
yeah.
So, challenge our fellow performance training facility gym owners to think about ways that they can have conversations with the kid that they can see is about to really reap the benefits of their hard work in a given off season, and talk to them about how important it is that they not lose sight of the target when that time comes, because this is the analogy I like. It's like the Tour de France. You can win a stage, but you got to get
Hmm.
on the bike the next day.
Yeah.
And so that given season where you go out and you kill it, there's always a season after that. And
Yeah.
so unless you're someone who's declared, you're LeBron James and saying I'm about to play my final season and you're going to go on your victory lap, that person can totally lose sight of the training target. But everybody else is trying to play into perpetuity, and we can help them make good decisions that will reinforce things beyond the shiny object that is in front of them, which is this season, immediately
Hmm.
followed by all of the things that get thrown at them after that. And so I would hope that the gym owners who work with athletes of this nature start to have conversations before it becomes an issue so that they can help condition good decisions.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I hope all of our performance training gyms are really taking notes. I think it's such an important series of expectations to set for clients. And I'll just add that I hope anyone who's listening who trains a Gen Pop kind of audience that's listening to this podcast takes away that there's some value for us also having long-term goal setting conversations with our clients, long-term expectation setting conversations with our clients, to know that it's not just about the next 5 pounds you want to lose or the next bit of muscle you want to put on, but it's about a lifelong journey. And I hope that we're framing the work that we do with people beyond just the next season. Yeah. Great conversation. This was a great one, Pete. Thanks for having it as always. I think there's great content that I didn't even know we were going to get to today. um,
Wonderful.
yeah, we wandered, but I thought it was useful. I thought it was useful. We'll let the listeners decide for themselves. But dear listeners, if you found this useful, please leave us a 5-star review everywhere you listen to this podcast. It really helps us find folks like you who are gym owners who want to keep growing their business. And then also email us, Michael and Pete at businessunicorns.com. Let us know what you want us to talk about next. Ask us questions. We keep a list of questions people ask, and we really use them to decide what we're going to talk about on this podcast. So hit us up and let us know what you want us to talk about next. And you can also hit us up on social media and ask for questions there. But thanks for listening, and thanks, Pete. I'll see you on the next one.
Talk soon.